What's going on, everybody? It's John Eric Poli, and in today's video, we're going to look at the favorites to win this year's men's Australian Open. If you guys have been coming to this channel, you'll know that in the lead up to this year's Australian Open, we've looked at long shots, we've looked at some contenders. Now, these men are the favorites to win this year's Australian Open, and I'm going to get started with the guy that won this tournament last year, the world number one in Jannik Sinner. Sinner, guys, has dominated the hard courts, or at least he did it in 2024 anyway. Looked fantastic, winning the Australian Open, winning the US Open, winning the ATP Finals. He also won a few other events like the Miami Open he won throughout the course of the year. I just really don't see a scenario he's not going to be the favorite on a hard court. Look out for Jannik Sinner. He's definitely the favorite to win this year's 2025 Australian Open. Speaking of favorites, you always got to put this guy in a category. If he's entering a tournament, you can expect good things out of him, and that's Carlos Alcaraz. Keynote, guys, Alcaraz, right? Won last year's French, won the Wimbledon again. He also, his first ever major championship was the US Open. Needing this Australian Open to complete a career Grand Slam at such a young age, this kid has all the talent in the world. But I do think that this is the surface he might be most vulnerable on. I think there's a lot of opportunities for people to beat him on the surface. We saw Alexander Zverev do it last year. Of course, you're going to have to play well to do so. But still, nonetheless, Carlos Alcaraz, all the tools in the world. If he has a very good draw, look out for him. Really curious to see how far he goes in this year's Australian Open. I think he's definitely one of the favorites. Now, speaking of favorites, typically, guys, more often than not, this was in previous years, this guy would have been the very first name out of our mouths, and I really don't know if I should have him this high up on the list. It's kind of a weird thing, but it's Novak Djokovic, guys, and you guys don't live under a rock. You guys know. You've been following his career. Last year was not a good year for Novak Djokovic. He did win the Olympic Games. My personal opinion, I think if he's going to win major championship number 25, I think the clay courts at Roland Garros are going to give him that best opportunity. That's a whole other story for a whole other day, but right now the Australian Open, I know he's won this tournament 10 times, but there's just so many other good players in play here, and I don't know if he's playing well enough to beat those guys. If he has the right draw, if he could pull off an upset, we can make scenarios here, but it's going to be an uphill battle, my personal opinion, for Novak Djokovic. But I do like his chances of at least making a run because it's going to be it's going to come down to the draw. The right draw could do good things here for Novak Djokovic. Also, guys, let's talk about Alexander Zverev, who last year I thought played so well in this tournament and just well throughout the course of 2024. That big serve is going to be the key at this year's Australian Open. It's a quicker pace surface, and that big serve could be a deadly weapon like it was last year in his run to the semifinals, where he beat Alcaraz along the way, lost 5 sets to Daniil Medvedev. I really like Zverev's chances of making another far run at this year's Australian Open. Now, speaking of far runs, this guy had a very big coming out party at last year's US Open in Taylor Fritz. He looked so good in that tournament, and things are starting to come to their own for Taylor Fritz. He's always served well, but he's starting to serve and volley a lot more. He's cleaned up his defense so much. I really like the way how he's transforming as a player. Took a big step up in late 2024. Also made the ATP Finals as well. This is a surface I think he can do damage on. Look out for Taylor Fritz in this year's Australian Open. And the last guy I want to talk about on this list is a guy that's made the finals twice here, losing 5 sets both times. And a guy, let's face it, way too talented to only have 1 Grand Slam under his belt, and that's Daniil Medvedev. Medvedev, the hard courts are his best surface. His lone Grand Slam came at the US Open, but like I said, lost a 5-setter to Rafa Nadal, lost a 5-setter last year to Jannik Sinner. I mean, hey, he's going to be in play. I can tell you that much. I'm not telling you that he's going to win it. I'm not going to tell you he's going to make the finals, but I bet you there's 8 players left in this tournament. This guy's probably one. He's going to be a very tough out in this year's Australian Open. So a guy not to sleep on. Again, a lot of this can be draw driven here. I know that the draws are going to be out by the time this video is posted. I'm recording it before the draws come out, but still, Daniil Medvedev, I really like his game, and I really think that he has the tools to make a deep run at this year's Australian Open. So that's my list of favorites to win everything, guys. I will give you my official prediction over the weekend. How this is going to work, I've now completed my favorites, contenders, long shots. I went over the entry list. We're going to do tomorrow an official preview and prediction of the Women's Australian Open. Sunday, day 1 of the tournament, it will be the official preview and prediction of this year's Men's Australian Open. So make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to this channel, and get continued coverage right here.